Hey, welcome back to our greenhouse management series. Today we're going to cover our planting schedule. So, as with anything else when you're doing a project, you need to know the timeline of when you're going to accomplish certain events. So you need to know when you're going to start, you need to know when you're going to finish, and then you need each of your goalposts along the way that you need to hit in order to finish your project. In this case, have baskets that are ready for sale and that are the size and quality that you're looking for when that time arrives.
So most of the commercial greenhouses, their big concern is turnover. Get as many plants in and out and repeat crops in a period of time. But when you do that, then you sacrifice quality of basket and the size of your basket. I always work with about 3 months of growing time. I get my plant material sometime in mid to late January, and then I'm ready to start selling in mid-April. So you got to kind of count back on that. Plus, you need to do periodic pinching to get a nice full basket. Again, most places will pinch maybe once or twice, and you don't get big full baskets with that. You want to shoot for quality, so a minimum of 3 pinches, and that's about 6 weeks of growth between each pinch. And you're not taking a lot of plant material off. Basically, you're going to clip out just the meristematic area at the end of the cutting to be able to force the lateral buds from all the bases of the leaves. So count back from your sale date, and your climate will determine that to some extent, but generally you'd want to shoot for mid-April sales. And then hopefully you've got everything sold out by the end of the month of May and school's out.
The other thing a lot of people shoot for is they're aiming for Mother's Day. Okay, so Mother's Day is the first part of May. Depending on which weekend it falls, you might shoot for around that time or just before. One of the things with a school is a lot of us change semester in January. Some people might be as late as February. Around here we change semester in January. So having that plant material come in January really sets you up for that semester. So the students that come into that class, if they're brand new, the first thing they're experiencing is prepping pots to plant up that material. Or you've got, maybe it's the previous semester, they are wrapping up their semester by planting that new material before the next class takes over. One of the things that was really helpful, this is an old document. So old, this is typewritten, like with a typewriter. But this is a document, something that you might want to work up for yourself. And it's got dates along here, and I'll put this in the files. It has dates, and it says it's everything set for a May 10th schedule, or a May 10th sale. And it says this is the date, this is the plant material, get them in the ground by this point. If it's seed, you need to seed them by here. If it's cuttings, you need to have those cuttings taken and planted and growing by then, getting those cuttings in. So develop your schedule of where you're going to hit your sale. Now, one of the other things that's different from my area, I'm more of a northerly latitude. If you looked up top above where we are, again, we're in the bottom of a canyon here, I look for the frost-free dates in our area.
Yeah.
The frost-free dates in our area, in some of the areas that my school covers, is July 7th through July 9th. So they only have 3 days of the year that they've never had a frost. So they can really have year-round frost here. So kind of because of that, I've got a couple of different growing regions that my area covers. So when I bring my plant material in, I bring it in right in January. It's just easiest if I can do that. This plant material is actually scheduled really for more of a warmer climate, but that's when it's available for me. But bringing that in early in January also allows me to do 4 pinches. Sometimes I can almost fit in 5. And I will do my first pinch when those plug trays, I bring them in, I plant my plugs immediately into 4-inch. I then allow them about 2 weeks to settle into the 4-inch, and then I take my first pinch. And I'll just take that meristem off of there. on my first pinch. My next pinch usually happens about 4 to 5 weeks later, just depending on how they're growing. And then my next 2 pinches will actually be when those plants have been moved up into the baskets.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sometimes your plugs will come in and they've been pinched already,
Yes.
so that's a plus. But you can't always depend on them coming that way. There's 2 ways of doing your planting. One is to, as Matt's already mentioned, is to put them into 4-inch. That's helpful, especially when you're teaching kids to begin with about pinching, because they're picking up just a 4-inch plant and they can trim things back to the edge of the pot. If you're direct sticking at the very beginning, it soon becomes very difficult to do a good job of pinching everything that's in that basket, because you've got, in a 12-inch basket, you've got 5 different plants in there, and they're going to have different growth rates, even amongst plants that are the same, and it becomes difficult to do a good job of pinching and getting everything, and then you miss something, and then next pinch time comes around, you've got this big long shoot that should have been pinched a long time ago. So commercial greenhouses, they're not pinching very often. They will direct stick because it's labor savings. You don't have labor problems in the classroom, hopefully. So a good way to do it is to go ahead and plant everything in 4-inch. And then by the time you've done your pinches and the plant gets to the edges of that pot, then it's time to transplant it. And that will also ensure that you've got a good root mass in that 4-inch, and the soil planting media is going to hold together when you knock it out of the pot.
And that's another thing when it comes to direct sticking. So when we talk about direct sticking, we mean taking your final hanging basket, filling it full of soil, and putting just the plugs into that. So not having any time between plug tray and when you're potting up in the plant. And there's in addition to pinching, there's other reasons why we don't do that. One of the main ones is when you think about a plug, think about a baby person. When you have that plug in that container and you plant it in there, it's got all of that soil volume, but also all of that water that you put in there to keep that soil moist for them. Now, a little baby plant is like a little human. A big human, or one of your students in your classroom, could probably sit down with a 2-liter and drink a whole 2-liter of soda in one sitting. If you give it to a baby, it's going to be like a shot glass. It's going to be a very small amount. Same thing with your cuttings. They can only remove so much water from that pot at one time because their root system is small. So when we grow right into 4-inch, we lower the volume of water that they have to deal with. And when you lower that volume of water and you allow time for that soil mix to dry out and that water to be removed, then you're going to start actually eliminating some of the disease problems that you would normally have. So if you direct stick, you're going to have a lot of damping off. There's going to be a lot of botrytis. You might have fungus gnats. You might have algae growth on the top of your pot. So by not direct sticking and going right to the 4-inch, you're going to eliminate all of that problem, right? So you're going to go 4-inch, from 4-inch to your basket. And we're going to get in a video. These will probably come again the next go around, the next growing season, because I really need to show you in person how those go together. But understand that when we're starting off, you're going to need those pinches, you're going to need some time, and as we're talking right now, we're within that 6-week window of when my sale is going to be here at the school. So we're shooting the weekend before Mother's Day, and for us, our last pinch was actually about a week and a half ago. And really that last pinch for us, that 4th pinch, is more of a cleanup pinch. It's finding those baskets where the students have gone in and they've missed a plant,
yeah,
right? And you get a runner of petunia that's 18 inches long and there's no branches in it. So we go in and we pinch that, and then just immediately that branch begins to divide and send out shoots and runners. But that last pinch is really a cleanup. It's not anything heavy. The other reason to have them separated is modern Calibrachoa really don't like to branch. So there's a lot of heavy pinching that has to be done with that. You get into a verbena, you pinch it, 2 branches will come off the other side, and they branch rather readily. Petunias really respond well, just regular trailing petunias respond well to pinching, but Calibrachoas, for whatever reason right now, they don't respond real well to pinching.
Now, the other advantage too is with the smaller pot, it warms up quicker, than it would in a larger basket, so you're gonna get better growth.
Right.
Temperature's a factor.